Good morning or afternoon, everybody. We're going to give everyone a few minutes to join here before we get started. In the meantime, feel free to say hello to us, drop a line in the chat, let us know where you're coming in from. We're located over in Pasadena, near Pasadena, California here.
When I was closer to LA, I would say coming in live from Hollywood.
All right, we got some people trickling in. We'll probably get started at the 9:01, okay? Ah, we got a hello from Utah. Hello back.
Hello, Utah.
All right, Renata, you ready to get started?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, again, everybody, thank you for joining today's webinar session on solving Selenium challenges with AI. My name is Jamie Motherall, and I'm a functional testing specialist here at Parasoft. And on the line with us, we have Renata. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Renata Centillion. I'm thrilled to be with you all today. I'm the product strategist here at Parasoft. I've had the privilege of working at some incredible dev tool companies, primarily focused on QA in various capacities. And one of my favorite things to do is to connect with individuals like yourself and really dig into fun topics, explore the latest trends and challenges and innovations in our field. So let's make this an interactive, informative, enjoyable session for everyone. And yeah, let's jump in, Jamie. I'm ready when you are.
All right, great. We do have a little bit of housekeeping we have to go over first. So just to make sure everyone's familiar with the GoToWebinar and our user tips. Keep in mind, when you got onto the webinar, it automatically muted everybody. Just keep your microphones on mute throughout the presentation. We do have time allocated at the end of the presentation for any questions that you have. So at any point throughout the presentation, while we're going through slides and discussing challenges, or when we're in the technical demonstration, if you have a question come up, make sure you pop that into the Q&A area, and we'll be sure to address it at the end of the presentation. We often do also get people that come in and they have questions about some of our other products. So if you do have any testing challenges that maybe is not related to Selenium, but you want to see what Parasoft can do, feel free to also put those questions into the question area in GoTo, and we'll follow up with you after the webinar to provide you with some additional information. Now, at any point you have any technical issues, you hear that there's a little bit of lagging maybe in the audio, things like that, if you could also just pop that into the QA part for us, let us know. One of our colleagues will reach on out to try to assist. I think that's it for housekeeping. So let's dive into our quick agenda. So we're going to start with a quick poll, just one question for you, nice and easy. Just want to understand a little bit more of what your testing challenges are. And then we'll dive into breaking down Selenium challenges. So we'll be talking about test stability. We'll talk about reliability challenges, time and effort challenges, and the learning curve and complexity challenges when it comes to Selenium testing. From there, Renata is going to be kicking off a demonstration, so a full demo for you of Selenic, so you can see a little bit of what AI can do to help you improve and increase your productivity when it comes to Selenium testing. And then we'll wrap up with summing up some of the benefits and dive into the Q&A for you. So nice and quick.
Don't forget, Jamie, we have a raffle at the end.
We do. We have a raffle at the end. So everyone who's on live, after the Q&A, we will be doing a little raffle for you all. We've got a little prize that we're giving out. So make sure you stay on until the very end. All right. So give me just a minute and we're going to launch this poll for you guys. You should see this pop up. So again, as I promised, just one question. What is your #1 Selenium testing challenge? And we've got 5 answers there for you. This is some of the common challenges that we often hear from talking to folks across the industry, QA testers. So they say maintenance tends to be an issue. Creating new test cases can be challenging. Long execution times with web UI and Selenium testing, waiting for feedback, UI changes impacting test cases, locators. So all of those different issues are typically what we hear. So it looks like we do
Yeah.
have some responses trickling on in. Renata, out of curiosity, as far as in your mind, what would you say is the biggest driver when it comes down to Selenium challenges?
That's tough. It's honestly, I'm sure a lot of people are like, I wish there was all of the above because it's definitely a mix. And a lot of these can feel very related to the others, right? Maintenance can be a part of all of these different things. You know, it could be part of locators, but just on maintaining past tests, right? So it's a bit of combinations, but definitely things related to flaky test and maintenance issues, probably definitely at the top.
All right. Well, it looks like we've got a good number of responses, so let's close the poll and take a look at what the responses were. Oh, this aligns pretty well with what we were expecting, I
Oh
think.
my gosh, yeah, right on. Definitely a lot of people coming in strong on maintenance and no surprise there. And then it looks like we have UI changes and locators. Very
Mm-hmm.
cool. Thank you everyone for sharing. It's very interesting to see how aligned this is with what we've heard in the past, right, Jamie?
Yeah, so shall we switch to breaking down some of these challenges in a little bit more detail?
Sure.
All right, give that on back to you.
So we actually, really quickly, we actually ran this poll with a larger audience and a survey, and we actually had maintenance as the top one as well. So really interesting that we're seeing exactly the same here. I don't think that
Mhm.
ever goes away when it comes to some of these challenges. So if we, go into them a little more in depth, um, talking about testability and reliability changes, right? We're talking about flaky and unstable tests, inconsistent test results despite unchanged code sometimes, intermittent failures and difficult to reproduce issues, very common. Synchronizing events, handling sync issues, delayed events, dealing with unexpected behavior and timing issues. Timing, so very tough. And I've seen, some tests where someone had to put in a wait on every other line just to get their test to run because it was easier than like sitting down and really figuring this out, right? Because when you're out of time, we got to just make things work.
Mhm.
And finally, handling dynamic elements, testing web applications with dynamic content. We try our best to choose the best locators, but sometimes a dynamic one ends up in there. And how do we resolve those issues, right?
Mhm.
Moving on to time and effort challenges, which honestly time feels like it hits on all of these, but specifically wasted time troubleshooting, investigating and debugging those flaky tests, all the time that takes, dealing with false positives or even false negatives. Just so consuming of your time and your workday. Talking
Mhm.
about test maintenance, the biggest one that came in here, staying on top of new and frequent updates, right? Adapting tests to keep up with these application changes and maintaining and updating them frequently. Um, and I know we might be doing the best at some of these organizations that y'all are at. Maybe we are shifting left and we're doing everything the best we can, but we know one delay, one issue can create a snowball effect, and all of a sudden you're underwater again. So at any point, no matter how seasoned you are with your testing process, with how you're test shifting left, test maintenance can come up no matter where you are in that journey. And finally, execution times, the complexity of your workflows as you move up the testing pyramid, like
Mhm.
sadly, a side effect of that can become longer execution times. And that just sucks. I know it feels like whack-a-mole, like you're hitting one problem and then another one pops up, and execution times, we're doing the best, and sadly it becomes sort of the side effect of that.
Mhm.
And finally here, learning curve and complexity challenges. I think if anyone here has worked with Selenium, is not super new. We've all been through that hurdle of getting started using Selenium. It's a complex setup and configuration process, and sometimes you need some extra skills to fully understand and use Selenium. And then scalability, running tests on multiple combinations, the limitations of the Selenium grid for large scale testing, and also scalability when we're talking about your team, right? Who has all the skills for Selenium on your team. It might be distributed, it might be just one person. So that can also be difficult when it comes to both combining the steep learning curve and scalability issues when it comes to that knowledge base. And limited reporting. Selenium lacks built-in reporting capabilities. You'll need to look for an external framework or tool to generate and maintain these reports for you. You have to make sure that tool is compatible with everything. You have to make sure it's following all of the governance guidelines you have within your org. So that's definitely a hard one to tackle too.
Yeah. And I've been working with Parasoft for, oh gosh, 7 years now. And in that time, I've mostly been working with the customer side. So with new organizations coming into Parasoft saying, hey, I've got these challenges and I need help to solve them. And when it comes down to the test flakiness of tests, how brittle they are, managing change, test maintenance, and the scalability issue, these really have a big impact on the success of your automation strategy. So when folks come to us saying, hey, we've got an automation initiative, we're trying to get to a point where we have a lot of tests running in CI/CD pipelines, these maintenance issues really become a big barrier to them reaching those goals. I remember working with one company that came to us and they said, we started this initiative to adopt Selenium and we were really successful. They spent months training their teams, and come about October, November, they had thousands of Selenium tests that were all running in automation in their CI/CD pipelines. But come January, they start realizing that the number of test cases that they had running in their CI/CD pipelines was actually reducing overall. It started to go down. And when they
Mhm.
started to look into the reason for it was, well, their QA teams were becoming overwhelmed. It was too much of a balancing act for them to continue to create new test cases to support the new features that needed to be tested, as well as keep up with that maintenance burden. So at the end
Yeah.
of the day, they just pull broken tests from their CI pipeline. And that really impacted the team's ability to scale their automation. So they needed a way to be able to get past that hurdle. And you have to find a way to make it so that it's easier for your team. Just overall, you don't want to overburden them. You don't want to overwhelm them. And this is really why we're talking about this today.
Yeah, definitely. And
So
after discussing, oh, no, go ahead.
sorry about that. Go ahead.
Oh, so like after discussing all of these challenges, you may be wondering like why continue to use Selenium, right? Like who hurt you? But like let's remember, Selenium is an open source and free tool. This makes it an attractive option for teams with limited budgets or those who prefer open source solutions. Selenium has a large and active community of users and contributors, which means there's a wealth of knowledge and tutorials and forums available to help troubleshoot and learn. And these resources make it easier for teams to find solutions to common problems and get support when needed. And much like Selenium, those resources are often free too. There's flexibility and customization. Selenium allows users to write tests in multiple programming languages and integrates with popular CI/CD tools. And there's just familiarity and skill availability. Many QA professionals and developers are already familiar with Selenium, making it easier for organizations to find and hire skilled team members. So it's likely if you move on to another org, they're also going to be using Selenium or new to using Selenium. So chances of you running into it are quite high. So whether you hate it or love it, how can you improve your experience or your team's productivity when it comes to using Selenium and overcoming some of these challenges? And we suggest using AI-powered tools like Selenic to help you gain control of Selenium. So if we move on here, Um, so for today's demo, we're going to talk about some of these cool features that come with Selenic. We'll cover some of these first half a little bit. Excuse me. We'll show you how to create tests quickly using the Parasoft recorder and some of those AI-powered features like AI recommendations and self-healing. And afterwards, we'll talk a bit about how you can use Selenic in an automated environment, such as your CI. So let's get into the demo.
All right. So as Renata is switching on over to the demo, I did want to remind everybody, if you do have any questions at any point throughout the technical presentation, make sure you put those into the question box. I already see that we have a couple questions coming through, so just keep them coming. We'll address them at the end of the presentation. And then also, as she switches over to the IDE view, make sure that you also go to full screen mode so that you can see everything clearly. Renata, we're still seeing just the slides. Oh,
Cool,
there we
I'm
go.
switching around. Yeah, I'm trying to use all
Perfect
these cool
timing.
magic features. So,
All right.
awesome. So, yeah, let's kick this off. So, first, we're going to be using we're going to be recording our UI actions on the demo application and creating Selenium test from the recording. And if you see on the top right-hand corner here, we have our handy Parasoft Recorder Chrome extension. And if we click on that, I already have the UI action feature, recording feature turned on. And if you take a look, there's actually another feature here called API traffic for Parasoft SOA test. And if Jamie lets us, maybe we can sneak in a little more time to talk about Parasoft SOA test, because I think combining these two are really cool. The Parasoft Recorder is a really powerful feature. And when you hear a little bit more about how these tools work together, I think you'd all find that pretty interesting.
You might have a hard time stopping me from talking about it, Renata.
So, yeah, I'll go ahead and start recording, and you'll see that there's now a recording icon over the Parasoft logo over the extension. That's letting me know that all of my actions are currently being recorded. So we'll get into this recording now. So here we have our demo application. We call it Parabank, and we'll use this to complete a bill pay scenario. Let's pretend we want to make sure that that user flow is always working. So we're going to go ahead and log in. We, created Parabank to sort of mimic a online common web UI you're probably used to, like an online bank. And again, all of my actions are being recorded here. I'm going to go over to the bill pay area, and we'll just fill out this information with some dummy information. We'll pretend we're going to pay a bill. Bills.
So Renata, what you're doing right now looks like you're just doing a manual test. So does that mean that a manual tester could potentially use Selenic?
Yeah, potentially, definitely. That's definitely an option. Right now, everything we're doing is exactly like a manual tester flow that they would create, everything they're inputting. But again, we're tracking everything for you, and you'll be able to see how easy it is to create a test from just, recording these actions. So I'm going to go ahead and click send payment, and I'm getting a confirmation back from the application that that was successful. And if I wanted to create an assertion at this point here and have that check, if you go up to the Chrome extension again, you'll actually see an option to assert text. So if I click that option, you'll see now my mouse has kind of turned into crosshairs, and I can select any line of text here and create an assertion. Always great to add assertions into your test, so you're making sure that you're having those extra checks on during your recording. So I'm going to go ahead and log out and end the recording here. Cool. And we'll just give this test a name. Let's just put in a date. We'll do 4/25 so we know when we recorded this. Great, make sure. So now we'll switch over to the IDE. Today I'll be using IntelliJ, but if you prefer Eclipse, Selenic is available on Eclipse as well. And now we can import that JSON recording, and we can add it to an existing test, or we can create our own project, which we'll be doing today. So I'm going to go ahead and find that recording. It might take a second to pop up. Oh, here it is. You can imagine I've probably done this a few times. So we'll fill in, we'll give a package name here. I just forget which order it goes in. Class, we'll give it a class name. Oops, test. And we'll give the project a name. And we'll just do webinar demo just for now, because I have quite a few projects in there. I'll make sure we're clearing it up. Great, so now this is imported completely, and you can see we have our test created here. We have also created page object models here. This is really great because Selenic has essentially created this test using the page object models. So we can see we have the test itself and all the necessary page objects. And I love tools like this, Jamie, that integrate best practices for you. Using the page object model is going to help you maintain your test easier. You know, if you didn't know, this is like an industry best practice, and it's made our application pages, it's made it so our application pages are now defined as reusable objects. So really handy, already built in as you're creating your tests. I'm actually seeing some errors here, so I'm just going to switch over to a different test that I've already had. So if we move on, depending on your role at this point, you can hand this over to whoever is maybe the Selenium tester that's going to execute these tests. Remember, you're getting back pure Selenium here, Selenium scripts. You can do whatever you'd like with this. There's no vendor lock. And you can go ahead and edit the Java code to add your own custom logic or execute them directly into your CI pipeline. So, you know, whatever role you're in here, you can either move on or hand this off. Selenic also has its own built-in configuration. Oh, let me make sure I'm running the right version. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and use that to run the tests today. And we'll give that a second to run. I hope I can drag the browser over quickly so you can see it open up and run the test. And
it goes really quick usually.
It goes pretty fast.
Let's see if we can capture it.
I'll just give that a second to run. Okay, I caught it in time. All of my actions, as I mentioned, recorded. Perfect. So it looks like that test passed. Awesome, exactly what we were hoping for with that first test run. But as we know, changes can happen, and let's pretend here for a moment that dev has pushed out some changes to our application. So let's run this test again, see what happens now that we know there's been some changes made to the application. And hopefully I'm ready to catch that browser again.
It always opens on the other window.
Yeah. Oh, and it looks like it's taking a minute here as it's filling out the form.
Something's going wrong.
Yeah, I wonder what happened with those changes that were made. Yep, and it looks like the test failed. So those changes did break our test. Looks like it might have failed due to a modified phone number field in the bill pay form. So let's see how this would work if we turned on Selenic's AI features, like self-healing and AI recommendations, shall we? So let's go ahead and turn on those features now, and I can also show you some other handy features available here. So I'm going to turn on perform self-healing. You can see our options here, self-heal locators and wait conditions. So we talked about synchronizing issues. Here we can turn on that feature and help make sure that Selenic is catching those wait condition issues as well. I'm going to go ahead and also turn on the HTML report so we can show you the report after the test runs. Oh my gosh, and I almost forgot to mention this really cool feature we have. You know, Selenium doesn't have any way to help you performance test out of the box, but here with Selenic, you can turn on this feature and we'll actually start helping you benchmark your test. So depending on, you know, what threshold percentage here you decide to use, you know, Selenic, once you turn on this feature, Selenic will start measuring the time it takes for your test to run, and it'll give you an average. And if it ever goes over your threshold that you've selected, it'll let you know. So, you know, those execution times can sometimes creep up on you, right? Little seconds added to a test you might not notice until it's compacted, right? So here you are with this feature, just turn it on and you're staying on top of it just by clicking that setting. So that's all those features. I'm gonna go ahead and apply. Cool. So that's all set up. So let's run this again now that we have Selenic AI features turned on. Give that a second. All right, it's moving along. Ooh. Always nervous. We're doing this live. And it looks like it passed. Always good news. Great.
Looks like it healed it.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's see. Oh,
Hmm.
awesome. The report pulled up for us. So here you can see in our report that the HTML report we get back from Selenic, the test didn't technically pass, it healed, and it healed one test for us. And we'll see here in issues, it healed a locator, and it'll tell you the difference between weight conditions or bad locators or weight conditions there, and you can see into that pie chart there. You can see some more information regarding the test and what it found. Here you can see execution time, average time. So if you turn on some of that benchmarking, you can see here we're already kind of giving you that information up front as well. Cool, so let's go back into the IDE and check out what Selenic found for us. So if we head over to the Selenic recommendation section, we'll see that we actually have a message here that has one recommendation, has a locator update. So I'm gonna select view recommended locators. And here we have AI has brought us some options for us. So while it did self-heal the test at runtime, you are still in the driver's seat when it comes to our tools at Parasoft, which is my favorite thing. You're in partnership with this. You need to know what's happening with your test. AI can't just fix it for you and then be unaware of what's going on. So here we have a bunch of options for you to select. And I also think this is a great learning tool for anyone who's learning Selenium. We're always, picking the right locator can be kind of an art, and it takes time to improve and get better. You might see some options here you never thought of, right? And maybe next time you'll try it out. So you can always check which option you prefer, which option would work best for your application. You can go ahead and copy that directly here and insert it wherever you need to, or you can just use Selenic to do it for you with the update locator feature. So I'm going to select this first option. Looks pretty good, and update. Cool. So Selenic's already gone in and added that new locator for me and improved my test with just a few clicks, Jamie. That's really how
Hmm.
easy it is. And really, you're going to get the best of Selenium without some of these challenges in your way now.
Wonderful. So that was looking at both the self-healing and then the AI recommendations, all of which are
Mhm.
helping you to increase the maintainability and the stability of your test cases.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
very true. So let's pop back over to the slides and talk about some of the things you can do with Selenic outside of the IDE.
All right. So we've got one of my favorite topics kind of coming up next. Do you mind if I present this next slide?
No problem. So
All
is that
right.
coming through?
So
Cool.
this is all about smart test execution. You also might be familiar with the term test impact analysis and being able to focus on change. So when we think about CI/CD pipelines and our Selenium tests running in CI/CD, oftentimes when there's application change that occurs, in order to validate that change, you need to execute your entire test suite. So all of your regression tests in order to validate that change, which can be a very lengthy process. If you are trying to focus on the changes and you don't have an easy way to do that, that means that you're spending a lot of time manually trying to correlate what test cases have been impacted by change so that you can focus your testing. So what test impact analysis does is it helps teams to focus on just those test cases that were impacted by code changes. It starts off where it first analyzes your test suite to determine what code each test case covers. Then it identifies what code has been modified or changed since the last build. And then it identifies for either the QA tester, the developer, the DevOps engineer, the test cases. So just the subset of test cases that you have that should be run in order to validate that change. So just the subset of test cases that correlate to the application change. And when you think about web UI testing with how resource heavy it is, how hungry it is when it comes down to trying to render all the different elements on web UI pages when you're doing playback, you're talking about going from maybe thousands of test cases if you have a mature Selenium testing practice to being able to reduce that down to maybe just a couple hundred or maybe 100 tests, a handful of tests each time that you need to run. And that's not to say that you shouldn't still do full regression testing. You still need to, but in a lot of situations, you want that quick feedback because that will help your team to be more iterative and more agile overall. And it also can help you when it comes down to optimizing your CI/CD pipelines. Because running a full regression suite consumes a high footprint for DevOps hardware and infrastructure, TIA, test impact analysis, when you apply it to web UI testing, API testing, even unit testing, can help you to actually support more projects in your CI/CD pipelines because you're not having to put as many tests, running as many tests at once. So it's pretty
Very
nifty,
cool.
right?
Yeah, very cool. And executing Selenic into your CI/CD process is so easy. It's just a one-line change to the code and to the command line to execute these tests as part of your Jenkins flow and get some of these cool features here. So very awesome, Jamie. Let's recap a little bit of what we went over today. Oh my gosh, I forgot. You mentioned here on your slide API tests with SOA test. Would you just give us
Ah,
a little bit? I showed everyone at the beginning of the demo that really cool feature within the Parasoft Recorder, and I don't know if anyone maybe wants to hear a little bit more about that.
yeah, so this is near and dear to my heart. I absolutely love our SOA test solution. It's the sister solution to Selenic in a way. SOA test is for API testing, end-to-end testing, even load and performance testing, API security. So it's kind of your like Swiss Army knife when it comes down to functional testing. Um, but on the side that how it works with Selenic is, as you saw with that little Parasoft recorder, which is that Chrome plugin, when you select to record a Selenium test, you can simultaneously select to create an API test. So this would be a RESTful API scenario test. It's analyzing how data flows actually from the APIs under your hood, the hood of your application. And it then will generate a test scriptlessly for you. So it's a completely codeless way to create an API test. And the really nice thing about this is when you have a API test complementing your web UI test, if your web UI test fails, you can run that API test and more easily get to understand exactly where is that issue within the tech stack. Plus, those test cases are less brittle, they're more resilient to change, and they also execute faster. So very easily with this workflow, you can take a tester and essentially have them simultaneously create web UI tests, Selenium tests, API tests all at once and go very easily from very little automation, rapidly scaling that. So
Yeah,
it's very, very fun what
so
we can
cool.
do.
So cool. Thank you. It's so cool. It's just like for one recording, you can get double your efforts that easily. I just think that's so cool. And I think combining Selenic and SOA test together is just really a powerful combination. So thank you for sharing that, Jamie. For anyone who maybe is a little more, into their journey and ready maybe to tackle some more on top of their web UI test with API tests. So if you're ready for that, definitely reach out to us because we have some pretty cool tools that work together really well. So let's do a brief overview and recap of some of the things we've shown you today. So again, with Selenic, you can continue to use Selenium with no change to your existing Selenium testing practice. We have showed you AI-powered recommendations and how that helps you reduce time spent maintaining, repairing, fixing those broken tests. We showed you how our self-healing works with Selenic that helps you reduce wasted cycles from failed builds due to unstable tests. We showed you the report and how you can get an early warning on performance issues and link test results to user stories for focused test coverage. We talked about simple test creation using the recorder, recording your UI actions to give your team that jump start on creating maintainable tests using the page object model. I think that tool can be used at any point. You're either jump starting or you're trying to catch up on your work, right? I think the recorder can be a handy tool in anyone's tool case, regardless of where you are in your Selenium journey. Smart test execution, like Jamie mentioned, focusing on validating the changes for quicker feedback from your CI/CD pipeline. So just a plethora of different things to help you battle those challenges with Selenium, not make too much changes to your current workflow, but continue to get the best of everything and overcome these challenges, right?
Exactly. It's all about getting people to, just have a better time when it comes to testing as well. Increasing their
Yeah.
productivity, increasing their efficiencies. But, at the end of the day, we can't lose sight of, what is the actual tester's experience? And that's something that Parasoft really focuses on. How can we improve their day-to-day life? And Yeah, Selenic helps a lot.
Yeah, definitely. So I think this is a great point to move on to some questions.
All right. We do have a lot of questions in the Q&A box. Go ahead and keep adding those in there. If we don't have enough time to answer all the questions, we are going to make sure that we follow up with you in email as well. Now, before we dive into questions, one that might be coming up already is, well, can I try it? And we do offer a 14-day free trial of Selenic. You can download it now, get started with it now. There's no credit card or any of that information that you need to add in. Just put in your information as far as your email and name and download away, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Are we ready for a little bit of Q&A?
Yeah, let's get into it. And don't forget to stick around. We do have a raffle winner.
Yes, exactly. We do have a raffle winner at the end of our Q&A session here. So I see a question that does the tool have the power to include assertions? I
Assertion.
can take this or you can take this.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, we do have an assert button available to validate the content of the pages. I think we did see that as a part of the demo earlier on, but it was very quick, so you might have missed it, okay? And if anyone does want to see a recording of this webinar, after it renders, we will be sending out emails to everybody following up so that you'll have the recording of the webinar too. You're welcome to share that with others, but you'll be able to see that in the rewatch. Let's see. How do you import multiple recordings into one project? So we do have the option to create Selenium tests at project as well as package level using the JSON file.
Yeah, so you can
We
keep adding. As I mentioned, you can add whatever recording to an existing project or create a new one. And so for the demo, I just went ahead and created a new one. But you can continue adding to an existing test with your recordings.
Mhm. And then can we add custom comments while recording with the recorder? Do you want to take that or should I?
You can take it.
Yeah, so you can. So you can add descriptions to the actions that are being recorded. So we allow you to do that as well.
Mhm.
Let's see. My goodness, there's quite a few questions. I don't know if we'll have time to get through them all. What AI-based strategies optimize Selenium test suites for better maintainability and scalability? I think we went over this, but this would be a good one to recap, Renata.
Mhm.
Did you want to go through it?
Uh, no, why don't you take that? I'm checking on the
The
raffle.
raffle? Okay, perfect. Yeah, so we went through it earlier looking at how Selenium, first off, generates it in the page object model. So following first best practices to help ensure a little bit more of stability in the test. Then you saw the AI self-healing capability where it was able to heal that test at runtime. So that's really reducing a lot of those maintenance challenges. And then when it does heal that test, again, there is a little manual step that you have to take because we don't, with all of our AI, and Parasoft actually infuses AI across our entire platform of solutions. So everything across the SDLC from unit testing, API, Selenium testing, service virtualization, all the way through. But when we talk about the stability factor, so you saw in Selenium the AI recommendations that came in, and we never try to remove the tester really from this situation. You should still review what the AI is recommending. So it recommends what locators are going to be the more stable locators. So over time, you can continue to increase the stability of your test cases, and also, help your teams to ensure that they are, as they're writing new test cases, ensure that they are selecting the better locators. Let's
Yeah,
see.
very cool. Very cool. Yeah, it's a great recap of what we went over. So thank you for asking that question.
All right, let's see. We have quite a few more questions in here. I don't think we're going to have time to get to all of them.
We'll
Um,
definitely follow up and make sure all these questions today get answered. And I really appreciate everyone's engagement. I hope this has been an interactive session for everyone.
I think we do have time for two more questions here. So, does Selenic support TestNG? This is a really quick one.
Oh
Yes,
yeah.
it does. JUnit and TestNG. And then we touched on this briefly, but it looks like this person wants an expansion of this. Can we talk a little bit more about the manual tester using Selenic? So what that flow looks like. And I'm happy to take that one, Renata, if you're okay with
Yeah,
that.
shit, you're killing it today with these.
All right. So, I've worked with a lot of different teams that are using Selenic, using Parasoft solutions, and really one thing that I've really noticed is a lot of teams are very diverse. You will have your manual testers. You might have people on the team that I call the cowboys, the people who really know what they're doing and are gung ho about wanting to code and get into Java coding. They really know what they're doing. They're like your SMEs, your experts.
Mhm.
So oftentimes when you have a diverse team like that, you can definitely have your manual testers use the Parasoft Selenic recorder to create the test cases. So they'll go about their typical manual testing activities, but instead they'll just click that little box in the corner of their web browser to record the actions. And then that traffic file that is recorded, that JSON, gets passed on over to the more technical testers or staff members that you have that are familiar with Java code. And they're going to be the ones responsible to reviewing the test, extending it if they do need to extend it in certain ways, infusing like specific business logic maybe. And then they'll also be the person in charge of running those test cases, either executing them locally, or maybe they push it on over to a DevOps engineer once they've reviewed that specific test case. So you can have that nice flow, and it actually helps you to scale up the amount of tests that you have running in automation very easily because you have your manual testers really contributing to the process of creating these automated test cases. So it's a fantastic way that you can really uh, help the help really bring the team together and increase collaboration. I think that this is all the time we have right now for our questions. We will again make sure that we reply to everybody, so we'll get back to you with everyone who put questions into the chat. But I know we've got a raffle winner out there who is probably excited to get their raffle prize. Renata, do you want to go over the raffle and select our winner?
Sure, sure. So we'll be sending out a sweet swag bag full of lots of great Parasoft goodies for our winner today. And if we get a drum roll, I don't know if you can hear that.
We can hear
Today's
it.
winner is Beth Marshall. Thank you so much
Oh, did we lose Renata? I think we might
for
have
joining us
lost.
today, Beth. We'll be in contact with you to send over your swag. And thanks again, every 14-day trial. Oh, did you hear
Ren
me? I'm here.
Yeah, your audio is going a little bit in and
Oh,
out there.
maybe we lost.
So Beth, you are our winner. We'll be reaching on out to you to connect with you to get you your prize. And then again, we'll follow up with everybody who left questions that we didn't have time to address in the Q&A chat area. Well, I
Yes,
think,
thank you.
go ahead. All right, I think Renata's having a lot of suddenly connection issues, but hey, it happened at the end of the webinar, which is the best
Everyone.
case
Thank you, Beth.
possible. Thank you everybody for your time today. We really appreciate it. Again, feel free to reach on out to us if you have any additional questions. And again, I recommend getting your hands on Selenic. Just see if it is the right fit for you. You can download it right there. Use that URL. You can also just go to parasoft.com, go to our product page for Selenic, and right there you will find the download as well. Again, thank you everyone for your time. Have a terrific rest of your week. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.